Hello, Alabama. Javen Hilson decommitted from Alabama a while back. But it looks like this guy has maybe backtracked? Is this a turnaround? If so, no one expected this. Let's analyze the news. The news surrounding recruit Javen Hilson, one of the most promising talents in the 2025 class, brings a mix of optimism and caution to Alabama fans. The four-star edge, who was once part of the Crimson Tide commit but decommitted after Nick Saban retired, is once again on the radar of Kalen DeBoer and his coaching staff. The possibility of Hilson recommitting to Alabama excites any fan who is keeping an eye on the recruiting progress. But is it really worth it, and does it inspire confidence? Moving on. The Crimson Tide have a long history of successfully attracting top defensive talent, and Hilson, with his freakish athleticism, fits that mold perfectly. During his junior season at Cocoa High School in Florida, he was nothing short of dominant, racking up 97 tackles, including 27 for loss, and recording 14 sacks. Those numbers speak for themselves and show the kind of impact he can have on any defense he joins in the future. Naturally, the desire to have him back in Tuscaloosa is high. Hilson's decommitment to Florida State opens up a valuable window of opportunity for Alabama. While Texas is ahead in the race for edge, according to On3's recruiting forecast gauge, the Tide has a real chance to earn back his trust. Kalen DeBoer's strategic-minded staff is certainly ready to make a final push and ensure Hilson visits Tuscaloosa again before making any final decisions. Hilson's return to Tuscaloosa, which is expected to happen in the coming months, will be a pivotal moment for Alabama's 2025 aspirations. Currently ranked as the second-best recruiting class in the country and the leading recruit in the SEC, Hilson's commitment would further bolster the group by bringing in an elite talent to join Justin Hill, another four-star edge rusher already committed to the Crimson Tide. This duo would form one of the most feared defensive lines in the country, something that would certainly please not only Kalen DeBoer, but also all fans hoping for a new era of success following Nick Saban's retirement. Hilson's long wingspan and ability to destroy blocks before opposing players even get off the offensive line make him an extremely valuable prospect. That kind of skill is not something you see every day, and Alabama knows it. For a program that has always valued a solid, dominant defense, especially in the trenches, getting Hilson would be a huge win. However, the road ahead will not be easy. Texas, as mentioned, is the front-runner at the moment. The Austin-based team has done a formidable job recruiting, but Alabama can't be ruled out. The fact that Hilson visited Tuscaloosa earlier this year and is now considering a repeat visit shows that the Tide still has a strong appeal. And with Kalen DeBoer's strategy, which has managed to keep Alabama competitive and attractive even amid a leadership transition, there's a good chance the team can convince Hilson to commit again. Still, there's a long battle ahead. Hilson will visit Florida this week to watch the Texas A&M matchup, and he'll undoubtedly be courted by several Power 5 teams in the coming months. But if there's one thing we know about Alabama, it's that the program never gives up on a recruit of this caliber easily. The coaching staff will continue to work tirelessly to make sure Hilson understands how important his presence is to the 2025 class and the future of the Tide defense. With Hilson set to commit in December, the clock is ticking for Alabama to make its final move. And while Texas is ahead, there is quiet confidence in Tuscaloosa that Hilson's visit could be a game-changer. Ultimately, bringing a talent like Javen Hilson back to the Crimson Tide would be another big move for Kalen DeBoer and his staff, further cementing Alabama as an undisputed powerhouse in national recruiting. We'll have to wait and see how this all plays out. Is Milroe unusual? Kalen DeBoer is in his first year at the helm of Alabama football, but he's already shown a clear vision of what to expect from the team, especially with quarterback Jaylen Milo. In recent statements, DeBoer has highlighted that Milroe possesses an unusual skill set, something that could be the Crimson Tide's differentiator this season. For a program still trying to solidify its identity following the retirement of Nick Saban, Milroe's performance and versatility are crucial. A dual-threat quarterback, Milroe has already impressed with his impact on the field. DeBoer, in an interview with the Athletics Until Saturday podcast, spoke about Milroe's skills that make him unique. "He has some tools that are really unusual," DeBoer said. A year ago, his deep passing ability was already standing out, and he's continued to show that this year. But what really stands out is his running ability. Mixing those things together is the trick, right? Finding the right balance between those talents and taking advantage of the other skilled players on our roster is the challenge. For a team accustomed to success under Nick Saban, Kalen DeBoer's new style is taking shape. Milroe represents a new era for Alabama, and his combination of arm strength and leg speed gives the team a strategic advantage that can be decisive in critical moments. DeBoer has noted that when moving the chains, Milroe is often not just gaining the traditional 10 yards needed for a first down, but rather making explosive plays that can go as far as 70 yards. That ability to extend plays is something DeBoer deeply values. And it's not hard to see why. Alabama football has always built its campaigns around talented quarterbacks, but Milroe brings something different, a combination of accuracy on the long pass and a running ability that can unsettle opposing defenses. He fits perfectly into DeBoer's vision for the future of the program. Still, the season has not been smooth sailing. Despite a dominant start against Western Kentucky, with a 63-0 win, Alabama's performance in Week 2 against USF raised some concerns. Although the Tide won 42-13, the team looked at times like it was struggling the same way it did last year. USF had already put up a fight in 2023, when Alabama won 17-3 in a tense game. That time, Milroe had been benched, with Tyler Buchner and Ty Simpson sharing quarterback duties. However, underwhelming performances from both quarterbacks led to Milroe being given the starting job the following week. This year, however, there was no question about who would be the starting quarterback. Milroe stepped in as the starter and showed his rebounding and leadership skills. Although the Tide offense struggled in the first 3 quarters, amassing just 14 points, the team came through in the fourth quarter, scoring 28 points and securing a convincing victory. Milroe was instrumental in that success, throwing for 199 yards and 2 touchdowns, and rushing for 2 more. For DeBoer, Milroe's ability to stay calm even when the game gets tough is indicative of his potential growth. "He's not just a strong runner or an efficient passer," DeBoer said. "He's a leader on the field, someone who knows how to keep the team together even when things aren't going as planned." Now, with the Wisconsin matchup looming, the pressure is on Milroe and Alabama. The season is just getting started, but the expectations surrounding the program are never low. With DeBoer at the helm, the challenge is balancing new ideas with the winning tradition Alabama has built under Saban. But if there's one thing DeBoer has made clear, it's that he has full confidence in Jaylen Milo to lead this transition. Alabama's success in the near future will depend on Milroe's ability to remain consistent, but with the support of a talented coaching staff and a cast of skilled players around him, there's reason to believe he's up to the challenge. If Alabama can iron out the kinks that still need work and find a way to maximize Milroe's potential, the Tide could very well continue their run as one of college football's top powerhouses. Keep it up, Milroe. Alabama offensive line coach Chris Kapilovic expressed frustration and candor when addressing the issues that arose in the last game against South Florida. It was an uncharacteristic performance for the Crimson Tide offensive line, which racked up penalties and compromised the flow of the offense at crucial moments. Kapilovic, who brings more than 30 years of experience, noted that he had never seen such a high level of penalties in a single game in his career. The game against South Florida was marked by a series of mistakes that resulted in 70 yards of penalties being awarded to the offensive line. These fouls not only hindered the offense's progress, but also resulted in 2 touchdowns being nullified, and a long play that could have changed the course of the game early on was derailed. "It cost us a chance to really get the game going in a great direction early," Kapilovic said. Coach Kalen DeBoer echoed the same assessment when discussing the issues. For both teams, the main flaw was technical, instead of following the principles taught in training, the players tried to make heroic plays, forgetting the discipline that is essential for the good functioning of the offensive line. The Crimson Tide front line failed to impose its presence consistently, which resulted in a performance below expectations. However, Kapolovic believes that this situation can be corrected quickly, and he expressed confidence in the players' response after the game. "I think they got the message," Kapolovic said. "I think it hurts them more than anyone else. They take a lot of pride in what they do and want to do the right thing." He made sure to emphasize that the issue was not related to a lack of effort or commitment on the part of the players. According to him, everyone tries their best, but what needs to improve is the technical execution and the focus on applying what was taught during training. There is positive expectation that Alabama can regain its strength on the offensive line for the crucial matchup against Wisconsin next Saturday. Kapolovic noted that Caden Proctor, who missed the first 2 games with a shoulder injury, is recovering and could return to the starting lineup. Elijah Pritchett, who was held out for most of the game against South Florida, is also preparing to return to the field. Kalen DeBoer expressed optimism that both players will be back against Wisconsin, which would allow Alabama to have better cohesion on the offensive line. The return of Proctor and Pritchett would have a significant impact, not only because of the individual quality of both players, but also because of the possibility of repositioning Tyler Booker to his original position of guard. Booker has had to adapt and play left tackle in the absence of the starters, but returning to his primary role promises to significantly strengthen the offensive line. This reorganization would allow for better fluidity on offense and, potentially, a more cohesive performance against a defense like Wisconsin's. Kapolovic also stressed the importance of continuity and chemistry on the offensive line. He noted that when a starting unit is able to play together for an extended period of time, the results tend to be much stronger. "When you look at teams that are very successful, it's amazing how many reps the starters play together," Kapolovic said. "It's always better when you can have 5 guys or maybe you're rotating 2. It's always the same rhythm, playing together." Still, Kapolovic was adamant that there are no excuses for underperformance. Regardless of who is on the field, players need to be prepared to perform their duties with precision and discipline. "That's why we train. That's what we have to do, no matter who's out there," he concluded. Bama's recent performance against South Florida, although it resulted in a comfortable victory in the end, generated heated discussions in the media and criticism about the performance in the first 3 quarters. "And how is DeBoer's work going?" For many pundits, the game against USF was seen as disappointing. Alabama's offense struggled throughout the first 3 quarters, scoring only 14 points and failing to establish the dominance that fans and analysts expect from the Crimson Tide. However, what was perhaps underestimated by some critics was the team's overwhelming response in the fourth quarter, when Alabama scored 4 touchdowns in just 10 minutes, sealing the victory by 42-13. What is interesting is how the media treated this performance. Even with a final victory by 26 points, Alabama was placed in the same category as other teams that struggled in their respective games. Teams like Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Oregon, and Penn State, all of which had shaky performances and even narrow losses or wins, were lumped in with the Crimson Tide as examples of disappointment this week. The comparison seems somewhat unfair when you consider that while some of those teams barely survived, Alabama managed to assert its superiority in the end by a significant margin of victory. The most notable criticism came from CBS Sports' Sheehan Jayaraja, who stated that Alabama and Penn State were surprisingly pushed to the wire. This sparked a wave of similar opinions, resulting in Alabama being demoted to number 7 in ESPN's power rankings, despite a clear win. This is clear evidence that the standard of judgment for Alabama is higher than for other programs, a direct reflection of Nick Saban's legacy. During the years under Saban, Alabama became synonymous with continuous excellence. The team not only won, but did so in overwhelming fashion, rarely leaving any doubt as to its superiority. This has created an expectation of perfection, a bar so high that any wavering, even momentary, is immediately questioned. Kalen DeBoer, in his first year at the helm of the program, is already facing the challenge, keeping Alabama at the same level of greatness, even as the inevitable transition takes place. Yet while many criticized the Tide's performance against USF, a few more sober voices emerged amid the noise. Paul Feinbaum, known for his hard-hitting analysis, was one of those voices. Rather than diving into easy criticism, Feinbaum acknowledged that Alabama was not at its best, but he highlighted the team's strength in the fourth quarter. To him, the comeback was an encouraging sign that the Crimson Tide still possesses the resilience and quality needed to compete at a high level. The reality is that, even in the post-Saban era, Alabama continues to be seen as a powerhouse. The upcoming game against Wisconsin will be another opportunity for the Tide to prove that, under the leadership of Kalen DeBoer, the program can still compete and win against the best teams in the country. A convincing win in this game would certainly help silence some of the critics and reaffirm Alabama's standing. But at Alabama, the expectation is different. The standard of excellence that Saban has set requires not just wins, but dominant performances from start to finish. DeBoer now bears the responsibility, and so far, he has shown that he understands the challenge. As the Crimson Tide prepare to face Wisconsin, the focus is on fixing the mistakes that were made against USF and putting on a more complete performance. The good news is that Alabama still has all the pieces in place to continue to be competitive on a national level. Quarterback Jaylen Milo, with his dual-threat ability, is a clear example of this team's potential. Additionally, the defense, traditionally a strength for Alabama, is still solid and ready to take on bigger challenges. Let's move on. The debate over Alabama football playing in state teams has been brought up again recently, with Jacksonville State coach Rich Rodriguez offering a humorous response to the idea. During his radio show, Rodriguez raised the possibility of Alabama teams playing each other, rather than the Crimson Tide playing out-of-state opponents that are not part of the Power Four. Rodriguez's provocation was clear and playful. He said he would be willing to play Alabama not once, but twice, if it resulted in a good payday. Rodriguez even suggested a deal, saying he would be willing to play Alabama for $2 million per game. "They can beat us up a couple $1 million, for sure," he said in a lighthearted tone. The Jacksonville State coach even joked that he would make a point of calling Alabama Athletics director Greg Byrne to negotiate a possible deal. "I'll even sing Roll Tide to them if they want," Rodriguez said, keeping the conversation lighthearted. Greg Byrne, when asked about Rodriguez's comments during an interview with a famous website, responded in an equally lighthearted manner, laughing about the situation. He mentioned Rodriguez's good sense of humor, noting that the two have been close friends since Byrne hired him to coach Arizona. "Rich has a great sense of humor," Byrne said, showing that while the idea of a matchup between Alabama and Jacksonville State is interesting, it remains in the realm of jokes and speculation. The question of whether Alabama football will face more in-state teams, such as Jacksonville State, is something that comes up from time to time, especially when it comes to the logistics of scheduling games and the possibility of helping smaller programs financially. These games could also generate a lot of regional interest, but for now, there are no concrete plans for Alabama to add these teams to its schedule anytime soon. Rodriguez may have been joking, but the possibility of Alabama facing in-state teams, such as Jacksonville State, is not entirely out of the question, considering the history of bigger teams facing smaller opponents in non-conference games. For now, however, Alabama's priority remains to face major national programs and maintain its focus on the top of the college football competition. That was funny. What do you think? Comment.